Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is your host, Knuckle Up Gaming, and in today's video, we are going to be covering one of my absolutely favorite dinosaurs. It's one of the first tames I always go for as soon as there's a new map out, but it's just also one of my favorite dinosaurs in real life. We're going to talk about the spiky boy himself, the Stegosaurus. We're going to talk about where we can find one, how we can tame one, what it's good for, but also some real life facts about the real life creature. Because the real life creature was every bit as interesting or more interesting than its Ark counterpart. So, first things first, let's talk about where we're going to find one. Let's pull up ourselves a map. Anywhere on this map you see land outside of Carno Island in the top right in the snow biome, you're going to be able to find yourself a Stegosaurus. They are everywhere. You should have no problem finding yourself a Stegosaurus. Carno Island is that island that's at about 1581. Now, you're not going to find any Stegosauruses there, and you're not going to find any inside the snow biome. You'll find some on the outskirts, like dancing around, like right in between the border of the snow biome and the rest of the map. But you're not going to find it in the oceans, you're not going to find it in caves, and you're not going to find it on Carnivore Island, and you're not going to find it in the snow biome. Every other piece of land, all the way across, has got a Stegosaurus somewhere. Anytime I'm on a new map or a new island map where I'm starting over, somebody asks me what this should do, the first thing I'm going to tell them is you are going to want to build yourself a raft. Why? Because the raft is going to take us right over there to Herbivore Island. Herbivore Island is a great spot, especially for beginners, to go get themselves a nice, easy early game tame for a Stego. And a Stego can do so much for you, it just makes so much sense. Now, rafts, they're really easy to get. Early game, you should have no problem getting yourself a raft. They're not that expensive to make. Yeah, look at that. There's 125 fiber, 75 height, 250 wood, and bam, Bob's your uncle. You got one. All right, so let's get headed over to Herbivore Island. The only thing that's really going to be able to bother you in the water here are the giant whales, the Leodsichthys, but you're not really, generally speaking, it's such a short trip. Even if they come over and start hitting you, you're going to be fine. Look at that. We're already almost all the way there. Now, we should start seeing some things rendering in any moment now. Over here on Carno... Ooh, look at that. That's a cute-looking bronzer. What level are you, guy? Little lady. You can always find... Oh, look at that. We have some Stegosauruses right over there. Perfect. You can always be able to find a lot of low-tier, low-level, or mid-level, sometimes some high-level, herbivores over here. Brontos, Stegos, Triceratops, Ankylosauruses, Parasaurs. If that's anything you need and it's early game, you're going to want to come right over here because there's going to be no carnivores over here to mess up your tame. The only thing that's going to bother you, especially in a group like this, is other Stegosauruses. Now, as you'll see, these guys are in a herd. There's 3 of them all together right here. As soon as I attack one of them, all 3 of these guys are going to come at me like a spider monkey. They're going to be trying to mess me up. Now, we obviously don't want that because we're going to die. We're going to lose our raft. It's going to be stuck over here and we're going to have to start from scratch. So here's what I tell people. There's 3 different ways that I would recommend you doing this. You can kite these things. They're pretty slow. All right, let me show you. They're not the fastest creatures. Oop, boom. Look at that. See? He's not that fast. You can just turn, run, and you can just keep shooting him. Not that big of a deal. Pop, pop, pop. Now, and you see, as you can see, his friend over there, he's not too happy that I shot his homie. He's coming over, he's trying to get a piece of this too. But hopefully they lose aggro in a second. So what you're going to want to do is you're either going to want to build a trap or build what I would call a totem. Now, the reason I say that is the kiting is great and it'll work. But if you look around here, there's all this water. All right? So if you start shooting it, its torpor gets really high, it's going to run into the water, and it's going to die. So what I recommend is one of 2 things. You can build yourself a totem. Now, totems are super easy. Just 5 stone pillars high. Super cheap. Bam. And 5 wooden ladders to get to the top. 3, 4, 5. Bam. Now up here, I would recommend highly making this out of stone. Stegos cannot damage stone. Get over here. One of you guys, doesn't matter. They cannot damage stone, and with it being 5 high, they will not be able to hit you. All right. And as you'll see, as soon as they mosey their way on over here, I'm going to be completely safe from the Stego and from all of his friends. Now, the thing I don't like about this, it's going to be the same problem as kiting. As soon as I start knocking this thing out, as soon as I start knocking out his friends, there's a good chance they're just going to start running into the water and they're going to drown. We obviously don't want that, because then we're going to lose all the time that we spent and we're going to lose all the materials that we dropped trying to get that Stego knocked out. So this trap here, this totem here, it's great for using it on the mainland and away from water, and you can use it for other things too. Like if there's a raptor, or even like, you know, any of those Ankies, like right over there, same thing. They're not going to be able to hit you. Triceratops, you know, they're not going to be able to bother you. So these things are great. That's why I like them. But instead, what I recommend, especially for early game, is just building a simple little trap. It doesn't take too much to do. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to build ourselves a little trap. Just four foundations. And again, we're using stone, because if we're using wood or thatch, they'll be able to destroy it. All right, and then 8 door frames. Boom, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And then 2 ramps. It only needs to be 1 high. It does not need to be higher than 1. Get there. They cannot escape from 1 high traps, from 1 high walls. So let's get, we'll go with this guy. Let's get this guy in the trap. As you'll see, his friends are going to come after me. That's fine. Come on. Woo! Bam! In the trap. Just like that. Easy breezy. No problem. Now, this would have actually been a great time to have that totem so I could sat up there and shot him, but you know what? We already did it like this, so we're just going to do it like this. If we get far enough away, hopefully those other ones won't aggro on us and we won't have any problem. But from here, a simple knockout tame. This is one of the reasons that having that trap is such a good thing. See, they're getting distracted on the trap. And they're not bothering us. That's the most important thing. At least that one's not bothering us. Oh, see? Leave me alone. Ooh, miss. Hey, shouldn't be too long for this guy starts going down. Yep, he's already starting to run. As you'll notice, he stopped attacking. They're so weird and glitchy. They're not hitting me, but they should be. It's so bizarre. No matter, let's get this guy knocked out. And he's down. Alright, let's lose the aggro of these guys. And we'll get over there and we'll check our new Stego. He's lost aggro. Alright, let's come over here. Let's take a look at our spiky boy here. Now, these things, you can feed them, especially early game. If you don't have kibble, which they take regular kibble, you can feed them mejo berries. In fact, let me go grab some mejo berries. Actually, since both of these are level 8, I think we're going to do one with mejo berries, and we're going to do one with some of the kibble. Now, these things, their egg group makes regular kibble. So if you're able to get a male and a lot of females, get a male for the buff, for the egg laying buff. You can start making yourself some kibble for imprinting, or you can make yourself some kibble for taming some other things like raptors and other things on the island. But as easy as these things are to tame, it's really not a big deal, and I would recommend it because of how useful these things are. So let's give them some kibble. Look at that. It's only going to take 3 kibble. Now let's go take a look at this thing. Let's see how long. This is the same level 1. Let's see how much efficiency you get when you give it nothing but mejo berries. Which, by the way, if you're taming a herbivore with berries, mejo berries are the best way to go. All the other berries, like these amara berries there, and the tinto berries and the azul berries, they're just not as good. Mejo berries are the best. See, look at that. Only 3.6%. it's not very good. And look, his taming efficiency, every time it takes a bite, is going to go down. Now, this guy over here should be taming up in just a moment, and we're going to go over everything that you can do with him as soon as this guy is up. Should be any moment now. I believe it's 85 food, so as soon as it gets down to 65.15, it should be ours to go. But you'll see, even right off the bat, 500 weight. That's pretty good. There we are. All right, get over here. All right. So, in order to get this thing out of the trap, when you're early game, you don't have crowd pods. You're just going to have to destroy the door frames. Bam. Bam. Not that big of a deal. All right, now for a Stego saddle, I believe it's level 26. Oh, Stego. Yep. See, 110 fiber, 200 hide, 35 wood. Pretty easy. I mean, if you're having trouble gathering that, then this guy will definitely help you with the next one. And we're going to go over everything that these things can do. Bam, Stego saddle. Where you at? Perfect. Let's jump on it. Now, Stegos are absolutely awesome. There's a reason that I go for them first every single time that I start a new map. Just because of how awesome these things are. All right, you can use them for wood, you can use them for thatch, and you can use them to gather berries like crazy. The first thing we're going to do is show you the plate modes. There's a heavy plate mode, there is a sharpened plate mode, and there is a hardened plate mode. Each one of these modes on the Stego does something a little bit different. So, heavy plate mode, it actually slows enemies when you attack. It's going to slow them down. Let me show you. Let's get over to this Anki over here. And you'll notice when I attack it, it's going to slow down. Look at that. Look how slow that thing's moving. It's barely moving. It's awesome. And when they're in heavy plate mode, you gather thatch like crazy. It's amazing. See, look at this. Bam. 54 thatch. All right, let's keep running. Now, the one thing I don't like about these is their stamina is really bad. But if you're able to find yourself a higher level one, it's not so bad. A little bit thirsty. There we go. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be sharpened plate mode. Sharpened plate mode is great. Get out of here. Sharpened plate mode is absolutely useful for gathering berries and adds a penetration effect whenever you attack. Get out of here. While they're coming, I'm going to show you another cool thing. That little red crosshair right there, that's for their secondary attack. What their secondary attack is an impale. So right here, once you do a certain amount of damage to these guys, you can actually impale. Bam. When they're impaled, they take bleed damage, and they'll eventually bleed out, and they're immobilized. It's really, really awesome. It's fantastic. Get out of here. Shouldn't have bothered me. All right, let's get back to it. So, we are on sharpened plate mode. Sharpened plate mode is useful for gathering berries, like I just said. So your early game, you need to start making yourself some narcotics. Bam. Let's take a look at that. Just a couple of swings of the tail, and look how many berries we already got. Look at all these, look at these narco berries, and it doesn't take too much to pump up. We'll get us some stamina. And what I really enjoy is the weight reduction on the berries. So if you bring this Tinto berry over here, this stack, you'll see it's worth 10. Get out of here. Go. Everything here wants a piece of me. There we go. All right. So you'll notice that these things weigh 10 in my inventory, and as soon as they're over there, they're reduced down to 2.5. They have a 75% reduction in weight. It is awesome. And the last mode we are going to go over is the hardened plate mode. The hardened plate mode is what's going to give you all of your wood. All right. So when you are in this mode, you can gather a whole heck of a lot of wood, and it is amazing. But one of the most important things, especially if you're running around, is you cannot be dismounted from anything. So if something like, say, a Microraptor comes and tries to knock you off, you cannot be knocked off. Now look at all this wood. Early game, that is amazing. Look at that, 259 wood. And this one was a level 8 tame. All right, look at all of that wood we gather in just a couple of tail swipes. Bam, 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 we don't need none of it. So that is really, really nice. There's also a damage reduction buff that these things have when they are in hardened plate mode. And if you have a 124 saddle, if you found a saddle blueprint that's 124, you'll be able to have a tremendous amount of defense. Like, you'll just be an absolute tank. Now, I don't play much PvP or any really, and I know these things are really good for soakers. A lot of people really like them because of that fact. Now that we covered what this thing can do, let's talk about what it was like in real life. Now, I'm not one that's really a big sucker for... I'm not going to be one that's going to tear apart a character model. I don't like doing that. This is a fantasy game, and I think we can all agree that at some point, we have to take some kind of art, some kind of creative art, creative license. We got to take some kind of artistic license with some of our creatures. So they're not exactly all going to be 100% accurate, and that's fine. That's one of the reasons that we love these things. Now, these things, they were actually around from 155 to 150 million years ago in the Jurassic period. About 30 foot long, 5 to 7 tons. This thing was an absolute behemoth. It was about the size of a school bus, and it hit like a truck. That tail right there, that spiky bit on the end, that is called the thagomizer. The thagomizer is actually an industry term. It's actually accepted term among paleontologists. If you call it a thagomizer, if you say, hey, man, I found a Stegosaurus thagomizer out and wherever, they will know exactly what you're talking about, and it is an accepted term. The spikes right there on the thagomizer could get up to 3 feet long. They were dangerous and deadly weapons. And not only were they there, they were used. All right. A lot of specimens of Stegosaurus have found that these thagomizer spikes actually have trauma or actually have damage that is consistent with impact trauma because of how much they're being used. And we know exactly what they're being used on too. Stegosaurus actually shared its environment with another very, very popular creature, Allosaurus. And we know that these two tussled a lot. We actually have fossils of not just Stegosauruses with Allosaurus teeth marks on them from feeding and eating in battle, but actually we came across an Allosaurus pubis. That's the actual pubis bone right there. We came across an Allosaurus pubis that has a huge puncture hole in it that matches a Stegosaurus thagomizer perfectly. And it was so bad of a shot that it actually ended up killing the Allosaurus. The Allosaurus actually ended up dying from the worst nut shot in history. So, and as big as these things were, you're going to notice that they do have a tiny little head. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you that they're pea-brained, they're very stupid. I don't really know if that's fair, all right? I personally choose to believe that they actually have a very efficient brain. Their brains were roughly about the size of a dog's. They were very tiny. If I'm not mistaken, they were actually shaped like a folded over hot dog. In fact, the brain is so impossibly small that when it was first discovered back in the 1800s, people actually thought that back here in this cavity, there may have been a second brain in between the hips because there was a big, massive empty area right there. But come to find out, that right here is probably just for glycogen storage, just for energy storage, okay? But no, there was no second brain. These things did not have a butt brain. These things had one little tiny brain in their head, and it was used very, very efficiently. It must have been because they were very successful animals. They survived for millions of years, and not only that, there was a huge diversity of them. In this game, you're going to find the Stego, and you're going to find the Kentrosaurus. Now, these things are ornithischian dinosaurs, bird-hipped. All right, you can tell that from the quadrupedic stance. And more importantly, the most obvious thing you're going to see when you walk up to a Stegosaurus in the wild are these giant plates that are on its back. And that's actually what its name means, roofed lizard. Let's get up here and take a look at these plates. These plates, if you want to start a brawl, if you want to start a fight amongst paleontologists, amongst anybody, any scientist, you can just ask them what these plates are used for. Nobody really knows. There's a lot of evidence out there to say one thing. There's a lot of evidence out there to say another thing. Some people think it was for thermal regulation because there's all kinds of capillaries and blood vessels in there. It could be used as like a heat exchanger, kind of like a radiator. Some people think they're just for display. Personally, if you look at this thing, if you try to look at it without looking at the without looking at the plates on the back, it just adds an imposing factor how tall those things were. And also, because of all the capillaries and because of all the blood vessels, these things could actually flush blood into their plates, and that would in fact change their color. So as drastic as changing their color like this, not really sure about all that, and we're not really sure if they could change position like that, but they certainly could at least make them blush. All right, so that is one thing that we do know for sure. And they were very colorful. So they could have been used for display, some kind of mating display. They could have been used to tell different Stegosaurus species apart, or they could have been used to just intimidate. Who really knows? Unfortunately, until we find more specimens and more research has been done by paleontologists, we're really not going to know. And they did have a little beak here because they did eat vegetation. So that's everything I got to say about the Stegosaurus. If you like this video, please let me know in the comments and let me know what you want to do, what you want me to do next. Because I want to do every real creature in the Ark. All right? Every creature that really existed. All right, guys. I'll see you next time.